The allure of infinite life has been the folly of humanity since time immemorial. Gilgamesh sought immortality to avoid his dear friend's fate and failed. Tithonus was granted immortal life by the Greek gods, but not eternal youth, and was turned into a cicada. Emperor Qin Shi Huang sent hundreds to find an elixir of life, only to die from the mercury pills he had been eating to extend his existence. Many a card game has attempted to make life gain a viable mechanic. Players flock to these self-healing decks to attempt to find that veritable fountain of youth. Over and over again, tournaments instead reinforce the old adage, the only life point that matters is the last one. Anyways, Quackle was a tier 1 meta threat in Elestrals. Let's talk about why. The last couple of tournaments have been pretty eye-opening for the Elestrals community. Daybreak has not had the impact we thought it would, and 5s is still one of the best decks in the room. In addition, the most recent app tournament specifically has revealed an equal yet opposite competitor in Heal. There were 4 examples of this deck in the tournament, and half of them converted to Top Cut. One of the healers that didn't convert very nearly did, and the other was just on a radically different build of the deck. The concept behind this deck is an extension and response to 5s. If getting a whole bunch of big guys from any typing works, why wouldn't the same hold true of all the various healing cards in the game, like Quackle, Sluggle, and Dratagua? Pair either of those decks with a ton of terrible removal spells, and they have a strong chance of outpacing every other deck. Heal is just the immovable object to 5's unstoppable force. Heal even has a good matchup into 5's, assuming it doesn't get bricked up. But why is this? What makes Heal so good, even though it really doesn't seem to have a win con? In a game where health and mana are one and the same, the player with more cards in the Spirit deck isn't just in the lead on life, they're also in the lead on the number of plays they can make. The more you heal, the more plays you have, while your opponent has a limited number of plays that they can make to kill you, which also gets harder the more that you heal. Answering their power plays with cards like Eddy, Cryoblast, or Earthquake allows you to stop their momentum, which they then have to rebuild as their options dwindle and yours continues to be recycled. Then generically good cards like Ashdrabbit and Ashrabbit allow you to wall up while also getting those important tools right off the top of the deck or straight out of the underworld. In a game where mana is life, you don't have to win, you just have to not lose, while your opponent burns themselves out before you. The main deck that can compete with this is the previous best deck in the room, 5's. 5's entire game plan is efficient use of spirits. While other decks burn themselves out quickly, 5's paces itself a bit better than the rest of the playfield, especially Nexus decks that need a lot of spirits on field. Low cost big attack guys, low cost removal, and cards that punish your opponent for going more in on spirits than you, like Resting on Your Laurels and Lavalith. Resting on Your Laurels also finds a place in Heal, which similarly doesn't feel the need to commit to the board too early. You might think that all of this makes the two a pretty even match, and the 2-1 result of the final seems to uphold that, but the reality is, Heal has the edge. Heal's ability to heal can outpace 5's ability to hit without much problem, so long as it continues to draw into healing instead of just removal. Additionally, while Heal can deal with most 5's, it has a hard time with Galaxy, a major force in Jayax's version of the build, which is why it came out on top in finals. Galaxy's stat swap effect not only gives it a 5 attack, it also protects it from Cryoblast. Being water enchanted protects it from Tsunami as well, meaning you have to either go 2 for 1 to remove with Earthquake or commit to a normal cast like Boombat. I would have expected to see a lot of 5 builds including Galaxy as Heal became more popular because, wow, is it a house. So where did this leave Elestrals? It seemed like we were caught between a rock and a hard place, and Kuribis is even playable. None of the decks that we thought were going to be good going in Daybreak format were quite good enough to stop 5's, and a new generic good stuff deck came out of the woodwork to compete with it instead. Although, that's only part of the story. You see, something else that broke in the top cut in that app tournament was Rhinosect. So what's the deal with that? Rhinosect is a deck based around the titular Elestral and his pre-evolution Rhinymph. It uses the incredible power of a guy that can become an artifact to lower defenses, and a 2-drop that can special cast itself when there's an equipped Elestral on field, and then can pop any equipped Elestral. Rhinosect also has a beefy attack and defense that can keep it safe from most of the 5's lineup, even in the face of Tsunami. The rest of the deck consists of very powerful Frost Nexus tools, which do a decent amount of healing and removal themselves, now backed up with a powerful boss monster. The deck performs well against 5's, it just hadn't been well represented. It's hard to say what their matchup would have been against Heal since we didn't get to see that, although I'm not sure I like Rhinosect's chances. So does this mean we were actually in a 3-deck meta and not a 2-deck meta? Well, the thing to remember about all the data from the app tournament and the previous webcam tournament is that Elestrals tournaments are still a bit small to get good data from. The webcam tournament had 59 participants and the app tournament only had 35 because everyone hates the app. You generally want about 1,000 players to get good data, at least in the Yu-Gi-Oh world. The performance of both Rhinosect and Heal could very well be a fluke. At this point, the only deck we could be sure was good on some level is 5's because of its consistent representation, although even that slipped a little bit in the app tournament. And now that the ban list has come and significantly reduced the amount of removal in the format that made Heal so impactful, we'll never know how truly good it was. So now that the format is gone, what can we take from all this? Our previous conceptions of how the game of Elestrals is played were wrong. Thunder Nexus was an exception, not the rule, and the banning of Spark It unleashed the dark twisted reality of the game upon us, at least until they print another good Thunder Nexus card to replace the cat. Generic good stuff is simply too overwhelmingly powerful for any deck with an actual game plan to compete. For now. You see, in my opinion, the generic good stuff decks are not actually good. It's fucking Gemini Elf Beatdown and Giant Soldier of Stone Control. The problem is, all the other decks are so much worse. The payoffs in this game are dog shit. Kerberos loses to Cryoblast. Chronodile takes too long to set up for a bad towers. Nexus decks just don't have enough payoffs. They're close with Earth, Solar, and of course Thunder, but they just need more to actually be able to beat efficient decks that consistently put up pressure or resist any pressure. These decks also need to be good enough to overcome the punishments for having spirits on board. Lavalith and Laurels are basically impossible for any deck with an actual game plan to play around since they need so many spirits on board to power that game plan. Now that these are at 1 apiece, the concern is reduced, but not entirely gone. The solution to 5s and heal is not to print counters to them. Any counter you can print to them will just be absorbed into them like Spectaris. The answer is to make the payoffs for the other decks better. To make a 2-drop or a 3-drop worth of cost, you either have to make them crazy powerful or really easy to get out like Rhinosect, and frankly, they probably have to be both. My ideal fix the format cards are removal runes that require you to nexus 2 spirits of a specific typing to activate, but then are powerful removal effects that completely outclass cards like Cryoblast and Laurels. Those dog-ass removal runes are only good because the format is only dog-ass removal. Good removal will make them obsolete, and locking that in a game plan makes the game plan a preferable deck. These types of cards will require you to commit to play, but then would actually reward you for committing. You're also likely going to need more towers effects just to dodge removal, but I think at this stage you can get away with just making them very specific tower effects to make specific cards in hand dead and not make them invincible. Maybe some cards that can't be affected by effects that don't include a nexus. Remember, in this scenario we're making a lot of nexus specific removal. Or cards that change the target of a targeting effect once per turn. In fact, once per turn protection has a lot of potential, since it makes the 2-drops go more even on spirit cost, and plus on card advantage if they summon out easy. Then, if we make these guys able to be run over in battle or get blocked by other build-around cards like Kerberos or Chronodile, it can retroactively make those cards have a bit more of a place in the meta, so long as they can still survive a Lavalith drop. This is why Lavalith being limited is such a good hit. Lavalith is an extremely powerful card that really disincentivizes playing wide at all. While Laurels is decent and also punishes going wide, it doesn't actually punish you that hard for playing big guys as long as you have a little guy on field as well. Lavalith not only punishes the monster side of things by presenting a big guy who can get over other big guys in certain conditions, it also pops a rune, reducing your options for response. It might just be too much if you actually want to see people, I don't know, play the game. We might also need to say goodbye to Astrabbit, who is just in every deck right now. He's got too big a butt to have such a good effect. I'm not going to say that Spark Hit was not a problem, but man, Astrabbit sure is a problem too. But also, if you ban this guy, you probably have to print another receiver for Thunder, otherwise that deck is just ass. You already have to give him a new Nexus boy, just give him a new receiver too. So what should you as an Elestrals player be prepared for when you return to this format in a Time Wizard style retro format event? Look, I wrote this script literally 2 days before the ban list hit, bear with me on this one. Well, likely we're looking at a lot of heal, a lot of 5s, and probably a lot of Rhinosect too. In the Rogue category, you'll probably see stuff like Earth Nexus, Solar Nexus, Wind Toolbox, Bears, which has a decent matchup against removal builds, Water Nexus, Monarch, and of course, Drataya Deep Draw. Oh, also doesn't FTK. It's hard to say how good it is because it hadn't had much time out in the wild yet and it's a really hard deck to play, but it is out there now and it can be tournament ruiningly consistent. Now that A-Drive has made a whole video wherein he explains the combo as he bans it, any retro format of this era is sure to include it. You're also going to still see a lot of people on kinda whatever deck they want. It's not only still early days for the game where those meta circles are still being established, but there's also not a lot of people playing in these events, so you're going to run into a lot of people running jank for fun. Obviously you have to decide what your deck can beat and prepare for the decks that it can't, but you should also expect to just see about anything. I think for now, you should really be putting some of those usual counter runes aside in favor of more removal options. You definitely want to be on Cryoblast and Laurels, almost certainly Earthquake as well. As far as counter runes go, Tsunami is still a good choice, as is Poison Tipped Arrow. Shield of Achilles is a good last card to fill in those last few slots of your main deck. Gorgon's Gaze is going to be a situational thing. Before you put it in your deck, you gotta ask yourself 3 questions. What are you expecting to negate? Is it worth spending 2 spirits to negate it, and are you actually even going to see that card, or are you just going to be negating Quackles all day? After the ban list, a lot of this stays the same. Drataya being sent to hell means that Drataya Deep Draw and the FTK are gone, and the limits likely make heal and 5s less oppressive, but the rest of the advice remains intact. Rhinosect remains strong, the various Nexus decks become more reasonable to play, and Bears is looking pretty nice. The limit the Lavalith makes it a pretty ridiculous spirit deck investment for a card you won't likely see, meaning it's likely to only be played in decks that natively run fire spirits, things like Monarch and Bears. Earthquake faces a similar fate, but Laurels as a generic card is likely to see a lot of play even as a one-of, although I don't doubt that you'll still see Earthquake and Lavalith played as one-ofs too. They all make for a good 40th card at the very least. The lack of Lavalith means that counter runes get to have a bit of a comeback, but the same rules still apply, especially as more people experiment with Thunderstorm. Lastly, with much less Lavalith and Laurels in the format, investing in a 2-drop or maybe a 3-drop becomes less dangerous. Just make sure to time it correctly though, because it could still bite you in the ass. All this said, Elestrals is in a strange place, and might still be there. It's not too surprising though, because I think most card games are in a weird place during their first year. Even with the new Forbidden Limited list, there's a distinct possibility that these changes aren't quite enough. Heal still has all its heal cards, and 5 still has most of its 5s. While we got rid of a lot of their removal spells, we also took them away from every other deck as well. There just doesn't seem to be enough cards yet. And I honestly don't expect Moonrise to quite fix it, since a lot of that set is going to be focused on filling out the lunar typing. Unless Lunar Nexus is absolutely broken, we probably aren't going to see a major shift to game plan decks yet. Now I am fully willing to be wrong on that, especially because Lunar's focus seems to be the suppression keyword, which is just lingering negation, so it could definitely be broken as hell. But we thought Solar Nexus would be good before the webcam tournament, so... The set after Moonrise though, I think has a lot of potential to shake things up. There's no more types that need to be introduced, so now we can focus on supporting specific game plans and playstyles and making them much more playable than a pile of decent generics. A-Drive has also started making Forbidden and Limited lists like Master Duel in order to shake up that meta on a regular basis in between card releases. He's already shown just how impactful he's willing to make these lists too. That hit to Lavalith helps make the playing field a bit more fair for my poor Nexus enthusiasts. Being punished for going into a Divine Rune at all just feels bad at this early stage of the game. So for now, heal and 5s are on top, but their days are numbered. On October 1st, the new list goes into effect, significantly dampening those strategies. Hopefully the dev team and Elestrals design some better payoffs for going in on a strategy for future sets. I have a feeling they will. After all, they responded to how dogshit 3-drops were by making my perfect boy Pharaohgeist, and they made this absolutely amazing ban list that almost ruined this video, so they definitely are paying attention and designing to fix balancing problems. I just hope these fixes come before I lose my mind playing 6 rounds of heal mirrors, is what I originally wrote, which was apparently a monkey's paw that cursed this video to be almost immediately outdated by a ban list that likely solves a lot of these problems. This is so unusual. I'm used to having to wait months for a ban list that barely solves anything. Oh well, it might be bad for my video, but it's good for the game, so I'm happy. Thanks for watching. Hey there, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. I've got a lot more for you if you want them. Just hit that subscribe button and ring the bell to get notifications. I'd also appreciate if you left me a like and a comment and maybe shared the video around with your friends. You can also follow me on all the usual social media sites. Just check out my website in the description below for more info. My videos are funded by my patrons and YouTube members, whose names you'll see scrolling by in these credits here. For just $1 a month, you too can find yourself here, trapped in my end screen for all eternity. In particular, I'd like to thank Haru Hayes, Fleekill, Frog Prince Michael, and Jeremiah Coatney. A big thanks to all my other patrons and to my little community as a whole. Remember to be kind to yourselves, be kind to others, and have a wonderful whatever time it is for you. Bye.